Well, hey guys, thanks for tuning in to the Straight Outta Prison podcast. My name is James K. Jones, and this is my story.
And this is Haley Jones, and this is his story that has now become a part of my story.
Girlfriend, we made it to season 4.
We're back. It's been a minute.
Who would have thought?
Yes.
When we first started this project in October of 2020, we thought it'd be maximum 10 episodes.
Yes, actually, we had no idea, but then... for one, just the fact that you remember so many things, of so many seasons of your life. I mean, not to draw the parallel of the seasons of this podcast, but there are just a lot of details and a lot of things that happened. That
I remember?
Yeah.
I feel like it's a blessing to be able to remember things, but in some ways it's also like a curse, because I can't forget anything. I can't not remember.
See, and I am just the opposite. And I remember, this is a little bit random, but someone would ask, like, oh, if you could pick one superpower, this has been several years ago. Yeah. If you could pick one superpower, what would it be? And actually, I was like, man, I think I would want my superpower to be to remember everything. Because I don't remember everything. And that's frustrating for me, especially, having lost my mom and my dad. Yeah. I went through a period of just really being fearful because I didn't want to forget and being scared that I was going to forget, like their voices or memories or... So, I wished I remembered more than I do.
Well, Jesus gave you a husband that can actually tell your family stories better than you can.
That's so true. It's so, so true.
And pictures and, like movies, videos and stuff like that.
Right. I don't remember like monumental things that happened unless, someone refreshes my memory or something happens. I'm like, oh, yeah.
Well, now, for each one of these episodes, I don't necessarily remember the things that I remember without sitting down and actually going through pictures and journals and just trying to jog my memory to remember, okay, this is where I was. And it's weird because you get back in that space and you start feeling it. And then as you start talking, just more things start popping out.
Yeah, we've talked about that. It is crazy how, I have noticed, because we live together, that you do get in this headspace of the time frame that we're recording about. It's very interesting.
It is. And when it's a good season, it's a good headspace. When it's a bad season, it's like I get into a little bit of a funk.
I know.
It's kind of like the beginning of season 1. Episode 1 of season 4.
Yes.
I'm in a little bit of a funk just having to look at where I was.
Right.
At this time.
Well, but actually, to kick it off, we left off last season you finding your biological father.
Yes.
Which was really neat and really exciting. Mm-hmm. But just to kind of refresh my memory, we were at a place where we're starting now. You were actually in a pretty good place as far as like Kairos was kicking. It was starting to pick up some business.
Everything was established.
You had your girlfriend.
Had the girl.
Found your biological dad.
My dad. I even put his name on the menu.
I feel like we all know these seasons that we go into that you just feel like, man, I've got momentum here.
Yeah.
And it feels like you had momentum at this time, right?
I was in a good place. It was an exciting time. It was an exciting time with Kairos. I had started doing Fox 6 cooking segments, and then they were like telling me, we're getting more requests for your recipes than usual, so you need to keep it coming. And they started giving me more spots, and then they put me on the noon news. And
so really quick, just to recap for those that don't know, you were on Fox 6. You were doing these cooking segments during their news.
Yeah, during the news segments.
Yeah.
And then, it wasn't just Fox 6. Then the Birmingham News started coming to me for recipes. They did like stories on, there was one particular lady, Lynn Grizzard Fullman. She just fell in love with Kairos, but she was a customer too.
Right.
But she was in love with Kairos and with the story. And so every opportunity she got to write something on me, she wrote it on me. And it was neat. But I would always share my recipes. I had one recipe that I wouldn't share, and that was Granny's Rolls, because that's my secret recipe. Everything else I'll share every one of them. So
you were getting a lot of media presence, and
yes.
Which I guess was, like we said, it's like a snowball effect in the right direction, which is bringing you more business,
which is exposure. So good for business. Then my newsletter was growing. I was just in a place at Kairos where I realized this is what I'm supposed to be doing, and I started understanding this is why I'm supposed to be doing it.
And why were you supposed to be doing it?
Well, I always felt like I was supposed to be involved in ministry.
Yeah.
But I was also in the food business, and I love that. In the beginning, I didn't see it before we opened, but I saw it after. People who are going through tough seasons of life just felt, because my story had been made public, they felt like they could come and talk to me. And guys coming out of prison, people coming out of addiction. We started working with a safe house for women that were coming out of like abusive situations, and they became my staff. And it wasn't a thing where, you don't want to, if you're going to work in a restaurant, you don't want that to be your long-term career.
Right.
But I started noticing a pattern. It was like a landing space for people. They could get back on their feet. I couldn't pay them a lot of money, but I was paying them the best I could.
Yeah.
And then they'd go through a process of putting their life back together, and then they would move on. And something about that, just like, this is ministry. This is real life stuff. And I can't tell you the stories. I mean, I could tell you the stories if I sat down and did them all. But just dozens and dozens and dozens of stories of people that came. They worked with me maybe 6 months, a year, got their life back together and just kept going. And I got to be involved in so many, especially the women that came. They reminded me of my mom, like people that had been broken. And we would always, when they got their home or their first apartment or whatever, we'd always give them a housewarming party. And it was just, I don't know. I remember I was on like the 7th or 8th one of those, and it was just like, this is really neat. I really like this because I'm doing what I love. Food is my passion. It's what I want to do. But at the same time, I'm getting to help people. And it was pretty cool. It made it special.
I guess those people were in a place that you could definitely relate to, because when you came out, I mean, I remember in past seasons, we're finding the job and keeping the job and paying the restitution and kind of just taking that next very vital but very hard step to like keep going.
Yeah, and do something. And I'm honest with people. I love Jesus. I'm a Jesus follower. My life has been transformed by him. But he's very practical. It's not all the ooty booty and all that stuff. It's just, facing your stuff and dealing with it and finding people to help you and keeping going.
So did it change your day-to-day in any way, or, affect or influence after you found your biological dad?
Somewhat.
How did that work
in the beginning? I was on a high because, by this time, this had been from like 17 to 35. So what's that, 15, 18-year secret that I've been trying to uncover?
Because you found out that your dad wasn't your dad when you were 17, and then you didn't find your biological dad till you were 35.
Yeah. Okay. So that had been a long time coming. So there was some peace and some happiness with that. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, we talked about this in the season finale of season 3. I found out it didn't like make me or heal me. I realized that my family, like I'm a Jones, I'm in the family I'm supposed to be in, and I wanted to know the truth, but it didn't bring me maybe what I thought it would bring me.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then I remember I named something on my menu after him because, I put everybody else's name on there. So immediately after I found them, the fresh fish of the day, Paraskivopoulos. And it was just I had a daily fish special. Fresh option. But I remember my dad came in, James Keith Jones Sr., came in to eat lunch, and he asked Lenora, what does that mean? What kind of fish is that? What is that? And she said, oh, that's named after James's real daddy.
James's real daddy.
And he was like, I hadn't told him. I was trying to find a way to tell him, but we were not that connected or that close. I was going to tell him at some point. Mm-hmm. But I definitely did not want him to find out like that. And it still makes me tear up remembering that day. Like he came back there and was like, you found him. And I said, yeah. And, he asked me some questions, and it was a little awkward, but I wasn't going to lie to him. But I just felt, I felt like it shouldn't happen like that.
Right, yeah. You wanted to be the one to talk to him and tell him.
Yeah, and I didn't want him to be shocked like that. And I definitely didn't want somebody else to tell him that. So that was...
So he obviously did not know that you had gone to Denver looking for him.
No, but he knew that I was looking for him before.
Okay.
Because I'd tried to hire a private investigator one time. So he knew that I was trying to find the truth. But I wish it wouldn't have happened that way.
Right.
But probably the next big thing that happened after that, just be honest and get real, I used to have an explosive anger problem. And it was, I would get in a place where something would hit me the wrong way. And it was never like directed at people. Like I never like hit anybody or did anything like that. Mm-hmm. But I would get so angry that I would get like in this white hot rage. And I've been like that. I can remember episodes in my life I've been like that up until that time where I might like smash a window or just do something stupid. And it wasn't like violence towards anybody else, but it was like, I don't know how to say it, like a violence toward an object.
So what would trigger these episodes?
I didn't know. It would be something that was happening that wasn't supposed to happen, and in some small way, it always seemed to somehow be connected to my mom.
Okay.
And I remember one time at Leonardo's when Mom was working with me there, we were in the middle of a rush and we were just having a bad night.
Yeah.
And everything was going wrong and I was trying to keep everything together. And she was doing something and I was trying to tell her, don't do it that way. You have to do it this way. And anyways, I got that white hot anger and I smashed I took my fist and smashed the cash register, the keyboard in the cash register.
At Leonardo's.
Yes. And I scared myself with that. But it was so weird because Tony loved me. Like he wouldn't even talk to me about it. We had Boo circle back and say, we got this fixed, but if you do that again, you're going to have to get it fixed. So it had never been addressed with me in a way where I was forced to deal with it.
Right.
But we had an episode at lunch where...
And this is at Kairos now.
At Kairos, where I had one of those episodes. And what happened was Wanda was the bus person, and she would sometimes help run food. We had... there were 2 servers, 3 or 4 people working in the back, a dishwasher. But like when food came up, she would sometimes try to help. But she wouldn't read the tickets. Like, she wouldn't read table 3. This goes out there. She would grab food, put it in her hands, take it out there and say, who had the hamburger?
Oh, my gosh.
And I had talked, like, Wanda, you can't do it like that. It's unprofessional. It makes us look stupid. And she did that where she gave somebody the wrong food. And I just got angry and started breaking dishes. And I was behind the line by myself, so Yikes. It wasn't like I was doing things.
So could customers see you?
No, but they could hear me. And thankfully it was towards the end of the day, so we weren't that full. But
so you were just like, were you taking like one plate at a time and like throwing it down, or? I
was taking every dish and just slamming them. Like, I can't do it because y'all are driving me crazy and I don't know how people can't do what they need to do. But I was in like this white hot place.
Ooh.
And then Jeremy came and tried to come to me and he like
stop you, I guess.
I don't know what he was trying to do, but then he stopped when he saw the look on my face and backed away. And then Shauna was in the dining room with some of her friends, so she came back there. And I was like, just get away, just turn around and walk away and leave me alone.
You should see my face right now. I'm like, ooh.
It was bad.
Yeah.
But it scared them. And I had like 6 people working for me at that time. And after it was all over with, we cleaned up, we're getting ready to leave, they all came to me, all 6 of them. And they said, you got to do something different. We can't work like this. This can't be like this.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget Janelle. She was a friend of mine's daughter. She was like 18 or 19. She was young, but she's from Pleasant Grove and she's country. And I love Janelle. She did a great job. And she said, James, I love you and I love Shauna and I love working here. But, my brother was like this and he did crazy stuff like this. And that's why I got married and moved. And I can't be around stuff like this at work. I'm going to have to go work somewhere else. So it was very sincere what she was just saying. I'm not going to be around stuff.
She was like drawing a healthy boundary, really, I guess, for herself.
I scared them. And I've never hit anybody. It was always like, for me, it was always like a break something or just something to get my anger out.
But it's almost like you said, when Jeremy walked up and then he backed up after he saw the look on your face.
Yeah.
And I have experienced this with other people that is scary because you really don't know what they're going to do and you feel very, and you can't control it. There's no like breaking through that white hot anger like how you describe it.
But I've had episodes like that up to that time all my life. So I made an appointment with Steve, but he was my pastor, but he was better at being a counselor because he knew me, he knew how I thought. He had a lot of discernment when trying to help you work through some issues. And he came to my apartment, and he was very gentle with me, but he was like, you have dealt with issues in the past, because he walked me through all that stuff when I was in prison.
Right.
It's time for you to face this and deal with it, or you're not going to have a business, or at least you're not going to have the same staff you got now because they're going to all leave. And so I think what happened at the end of the day, when Janelle was doing it, Jeremy was crying. Like he said, I can't, I love you, I love what we're doing, but I can't, if this is going to be how it is, I can't be here. And so I was like forced into, I don't want to say backed into a corner, but I knew it was time. I felt like Jesus was saying, it's time to deal with this. And I didn't even know it was there. I didn't know what it was. And,
right. Well, when you say you didn't know what it was, I guess what you're saying is that there was something like deeper that was causing this anger.
Yeah. But it wasn't like a everyday or weekly or monthly. It was like maybe one time a year.
Right.
I would get in this space, and it was scary. I didn't like it. We began just having a conversation and talking, and Steve prayed for me, and he said, James, I don't want you to take this the wrong way, but I feel like what Jesus is saying here is that you have some deep-seated anger, but you won't face it because you feel like it's unloyal for you to face it. And I was like, what are you talking about? And he was like, you got to understand, I was like a month and a half out from going to Denver and finding my dad and uncovering all these secrets and lies.
Right.
And he said, with your mom, you have something to be angry about. You have cause for anger. But if you don't face it and process it, you'll never be free from it. And it was something about the way he said that it was clear. I felt like I can't say I'm angry at my mom because she's my mom, and I know what she went through to raise me. I know the sacrifices that she made, and I know, just the pain that. But I had a lot of anger towards her, but I couldn't face the anger because to face it would make me unloyal. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But I faced it, and I dealt with it.
And how did you do that?
Just by looking at it and acknowledging it. I believe with any issue that we deal with, if we acknowledge, the first step is you have to acknowledge that it's there. But I couldn't acknowledge it was there because I just felt like it would be wrong to say that I was angry at her because she's my mom. She's my person. She's the one, I don't know. It was difficult. And I didn't know I was doing that. But when I faced it, I went through some counseling stuff with Steve, and for me, it's always journaling. You journal, you write it out, you get it out, and then it's gone. And I never told her that I had that. And I don't think if you're like dealing with issues like that, you don't have to go tell everybody. You don't want to go tell your 90-year-old grandmother that you're mad at her, you got anger towards her. I mean, how would that? And I never told her, but from that day forward, that deep-seated anger was gone. It was gone. And my life was so much better after that. And don't get me wrong, I still get angry, but not like that. This was deep.
It's like you uncovered something, I guess, that was...
I did.
Covered up, but it was causing these outbursts.
But it was so deep. It was so deep.
So, I mean, the resentment and anger towards your mom, just to sum up, I know I'm not doing it justice probably, but just kind of the secret about your biological dad and kind of keeping that from you and...
That and a lot of other stuff.
Yeah.
And we've already talked about a lot of that. We don't unpack all that. It's just...
Right.
Sum it up, in the scriptures, it says be angry, but don't let it lead you into doing sin.
Right.
So it doesn't say don't be angry. It says... you're going to be angry. Just don't let it lead you somewhere you don't want to be.
Yeah.
Or somewhere that's going to cause you some kind of result that you don't want.
So at that point, you gained some freedom from that. I
did. It was like going through a freedom group. I really did. It was, my life was different after that.
Yeah.
And we're in a good space. I mean, Kairos was going good. My relationship with Shauna was weird, but it was going good because... Like, Tanya and Jeremy lived on one block like 3 blocks away from Kairos. Shauna lived on the next block in an apartment, and I lived on the next block in an apartment. So when I got off work, I would go home, take a shower, go over to Shauna's house. That was where I was at. Then I would, basically, I used my apartment to sleep in and to shower in, and that was it. And then I was with her all the time. I was with her in the morning. I was with her in the evening. She came in for lunch every day. It was kind of weird.
It was intense. I mean, it sounds like.
Yeah, but it's like, it's hard to keep pushing in a relationship like that. We're both trying to follow Jesus and not have sex and do it. It was just a lot of frustration. And I think Tanya, her sister, summed it up the best. She said, y'all act like you're married, but you're not. So why don't you get married? And I was like, well, I'm waiting on her to figure out. She says she's still not healed from her divorce.
Okay, so that was my next question, because I can't remember where we're at with that. If she was divorced at this point, then it was done and done. Okay.
Yeah, it's been over a year.
So, yeah, that is then my question, too, of why didn't, the ball move forward as far as getting engaged and married if you were that tight?
Well, she kept saying she wanted to get healed, completely healed. And she was going through counseling, doing stuff. She was doing, I guess, what she thought she needed to do.
Yeah.
But at the same time, my finances were in such a mess, like I couldn't even afford to buy an engagement ring.
Right.
So I was struggling financially. So I thought, well, I guess this is working out the way it's supposed to. Because, I don't want to get married and be in this place where everything's all messed up financially.
Right.
So that's where we were. But it turned into like this thing, like this is what we do. We're not married, but we act like we're married.
Kind of stagnant.
But we don't have sex.
Yeah.
But we do our meals
That was
together.
a very nervous laugh you just made right there.
Well, we never had like actual sex.
Right. There's other things to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, moving right along. Around October of that year, my lease was coming up, my year lease that I signed on my apartment. And I just realized I don't need this apartment, especially if we're going to be getting married soon.
Right.
So I was trying to figure out what can I needed to do something different, and I really couldn't afford it. And it would seem like we're in this building stage with Kairos and things are picking up momentum. It'd be so much easier for me if I just could focus on Kairos. And Jeremy came to me, Jeremy and Tanya.
Jeremy, who worked for you, yeah.
Who worked for me. And then, Tanya's, Shauna's sister, they came and said, we would be honored if you want to stay with us for a little while you figure it out. I was honestly shocked that I thought that was something I wanted to do.
So they offered for you to come live with them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not forever, just till we got this figured out. And I remember Shauna was shocked. She was like, after everything we've been through the last couple years and all your frustration towards them, I can't believe you're moving in the house with them. And I was like, well, we're not in that place anymore.
Right.
We're getting along, everything's fine, and I'm never going to be there anyways. I just need somewhere to sleep and somewhere to take a shower. Because most of my time was at Kairos or at Shauna's. That was kind of hard to do, but at the same time, I felt like it was necessary. Like, I just put all my stuff in storage, took my bed, and moved in their spare bedroom. Mm-hmm. So it did make the business part of it a little more seamless, I guess.
Yeah.
Because I didn't have to worry about nothing. I didn't have any 100% Kairos all in.
Right, yeah. You could, the money you were making, kind of reinvest instead of paying for...
Yeah. And I really didn't need...
life stuff, really, yeah.
I really didn't need that time. I just need somewhere to sleep.
Okay, so then that helped with the Kairos stuff, then with the... But you had mentioned, you said... I've just noticed you said, because if we're going to be getting married soon.
Oh, yeah.
So obviously your mind was headed in that direction. So what happened next with Shauna? Did it just stay stagnant?
Well, that lasted for like 6-8 months, just same old. But I was so busy with work that I didn't really, I was trying to build my business and I was just seeing like you can build a brand. I was starting to get a following. My newsletter stuff was picking up. I was on the news. I was in the paper, and it was an exciting time, but it was a lot of work that goes into that.
Right.
And it was easy just to like kind of coast with her. Mm-hmm. And I loved her. I was all in, I was ready to get married, but she wasn't. So around, I guess it was around the spring of 2008, I found out that or she confessed. I don't even remember how I found it out. It was late at night when I found it out, and I was so angry, but not like white hot, breaking stuff angry.
Yeah.
But she told me that she had been having nightly phone calls with her ex-husband, Dave, before I got home. And so it was a secret, and I was like, so you've been lying to me? And she's like, no, I didn't lie. I wasn't lying. And I was like, well, if you're doing something and you ain't telling me about it, then that's the same thing as lying.
Right.
And I just, like, I can't do this anymore with you. I don't know, like, where do we go from here? Why do you keep going backwards in life? Like, what is... And she's like, well, you never let me heal from my divorce, and you never let me do this. And I was like, don't put that on me. Like, what is that? No.
Yeah, that's frustrating.
But it was bringing me back to some advice that Steve gave me when all started, was like, you got to give her the space to get over this stuff, or it's going to come back and bite you in the butt, was what he said.
Yeah.
And it came true. And I just, like, I can't do this anymore. I'm tired of being, like, sexually frustrated. I'm tired of... Like, I love you and I want you, and I can't do this.
Well, you were ready to kind of move forward, like do the next thing with the relationship, and it sounds like she was not.
No, she said she needed to be healed.
Yeah.
And I didn't understand it then. I do now. Like, I understand a little bit better now. Now that I'm married, like, if you were to, like, divorce me and run off and leave me, like, it'd be real hard for me to jump back into any kind of relationship. I don't even think I would even try, but for whatever reason, she was trying.
Yeah. Well, I mean, she didn't have kids and all that stuff.
Yeah, so. It was a little different. But still, so I gave her an ultimatum. I said, you say that I didn't give you time. You say that I didn't give you what you needed. You say I didn't give you your space. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to give you your space now. We're just going to take a break. I won't call you. I won't talk to you. I won't come to see you. And you figure it out. Go get counseling. Get you some Joyce Meyer videos. Do whatever you need to do. Whatever you need to do. Figure it out. We're going to take a break, and we're not going to get back together until you're ready to get married. Because I can't do this for the rest of my life.
So when you said that, did you fully anticipate, like, eventually, whenever that was, her circling back and saying, okay, now I'm ready to get married?
Yeah, I thought it would make her deal with her issues.
Yeah.
And the issues were her issues, not my issues. I was ready to be married. I was ready to be married, ready to start a family, ready for everything.
So how did that work out? How did that play out, I should say?
It was, you know how I get when I make up my mind to do something?
Yes, I do.
I'm going to do it. So in the beginning, it was very hard for me because I loved her. And I know this now on the other side, there was like a codependence with her because I just wanted her to be okay.
Yeah.
And she was so hurt and so shattered from her first marriage. Mm-hmm. And it was so hard not to call her or check on her. I mean, I checked on her, but through other people.
Yeah.
But I think the first week it was like, I don't know, it was like starting the keto diet. It was really hard to do it. But I just made up my mind, this is what I'm doing. And I felt like if I don't do this now, we're going to be like these weirdos, old people that date and never get married, and just it's not gonna be my life. It's not my story.
I mean, just hearing you talk about it, it does seem like the relationship did seem very unstable or like volatile, like emotionally volatile at all times because of all the different factors. But, okay, so you made up your mind. You cut it off.
I cut it off. And I mean, I still saw her at church, and, you know, her family, I still did stuff with her family, so I saw her in those settings. But it was hard.
Did she try to reach out to you and talk to you during that time?
In the beginning, but I held firm. Like, this is what I'm doing. This is what we're doing. Are you ready to get married? You ready to move on? If not, let's don't have any kind of conversation. That's where I
have to say, I think that's a gift that you have, but also it's kind of scary because I know this about you. I mean, in the sense of like when you started the keto diet, like you referenced, it was hard like that. Like you decided to do it and then you did it. And there was no like wavering or like, oh, maybe, which, you know, I'm the opposite end of the spectrum. But you're able to just kind of cut people off in a way that's kind of crazy to me.
It was for good, though.
Yeah, I know, but but that's hard to do. I mean, anyone who's been in love and been in a relationship understands how difficult that is.
Oh, it was hard, but by this time, I've been through almost 3 years of this.
Right.
And like, you don't fall in love and start dating somebody without expecting to get to the end result, which is getting married,
right?
Having sex, doing all the things, starting a family.
Yeah.
And, all around me, our friends were getting married. Our friends were having babies.
Because you were how old at this time?
I was 35.
Yeah. And she was how old? About?
It's 27, 28.
Yeah. So y'all were definitely, it's not like y'all were.
It was time.
Young. You were ready. Yeah.
It was time. So I thought I was doing something good. I think, I can't remember what Steve's advice was. I think his advice might have been more along the lines of, you should do that before.
Yeah.
So
hindsight's 20/20. Yeah, so then what happened after that?
What did happen after that? It was spring, went all the way through summer. Just, we would see each other at church. There were several times where we would see each other. I remember one of her friends came to my mom's house to pick up something, and I was staying the weekend at my mom's, and we were kissing or something. And this little girl, Kayla, was like, if you're not dating, you shouldn't be kissing. If y'all are on break, then you need to be on break. And I was like, yeah, you're right. That's true. But I was just waiting on I was waiting on the process to handle itself. And, at the same time, I was doing other stuff.
What do you mean you were doing others?
I was studying. No, I don't mean bad. I had saw this movie, some Christian movie about the Love Dare or something, Fireproof.
Oh, yeah.
Anyways, I got the book and I was doing the Love Dare and studying out. This is how I'm going to do it.
Hilarious.
And, I was all in. You know how I am when I decide to do something. I'm going to study ways to do it better. How can I be a better man? How can I be a good husband? How can I do all the things? And somewhere in the middle of this, it was the fall of 2008, so we had been on break, technically, for about 6 months.
Uh-huh.
She got up at church at share time and shared, God healed me of my divorce. I don't even know.
I'm like sitting, waiting for the word to come out of your mouth.
I don't even know how to say it. She just stood up and she said, I just want to share that God healed me of my divorce. This has been a rough thing for me. I thought I would never be over it. My heart was shattered. I was shattered, but God healed me of my divorce. And I was happy. I was excited.
Because essentially that's kind of what you were waiting on and what she said she was waiting on.
This is what I'd been waiting on.
Yeah.
I was happy and excited, but immediately I was like, hold up. Why would you be sharing that at church and not sharing it with me?
Right.
After everything I've been through with you, after all the sleepless nights and all the things that we've been through, because you think me and you get in a fight sometimes. She and I would get in a fight that would last from 6 p.m. to 12 o'clock the next day, and we'd never go to sleep. So it was like,
good Lord,
it was a mess. But it was, looking back, it was unhealthy, and we shouldn't have been together. But I didn't know that in the moment.
Right,
I thought she was my person, and I had to figure it out, and I had to change and do whatever I needed to do. She needed to do that too. We were actually going through counseling, like marriage counseling.
When, at this point, or?
No, before.
Okay, before the break.
Yeah. We were going through marriage counseling, but we weren't even engaged. So it's everything, this is all twisted, and it just, something about this is just not, it's just not right.
Right.
But I was doing what I thought I had to do. She did her thing at church on that Sunday and said God healed her divorce. Then she called me and said she wanted to have dinner and that we needed to talk. And so I was excited.
Right.
Why wouldn't I be excited? I had this thing where after I moved in with Tanya and Jeremy, I didn't want to be around them all the time. Mm-hmm. So I would go stay at my mom's on the weekends because she was always at work at Leonardo's, and it was my getaway.
Right.
She had a 1-bedroom apartment, but she had a sleeper sofa.
Yeah.
And I would just go over there on the weekends after me and Shauna weren't dating anymore. I didn't have anything to do. So that was the thing that I did. But I went home. I was at my mom's, or I went to my mom's, and I told her, me and Shauna are going to have dinner. We're having a meeting. She wants to meet, so I'm pretty sure everything's going to work out and everything's good. And she was like, that's good, baby. You've been so depressed. Everything. That's good.
That's good, baby.
So, but it didn't really work out like that.
So you went to dinner, and what did she say?
Well, I didn't go to dinner. I went to her apartment.
Okay.
And it's kind of weird, too. The way some of the stuff got enmeshed, I guess you would call it, your words, not mine. When she started her apartment, when she got her apartment, was when I was moving out of my house.
Okay.
So I gave her a bunch of my furniture so she didn't have to buy anything.
course you did.
So she had a bedroom suite of her own, but then it was like my couch, and I didn't care because I felt like we're going to get married anyways. Who cares?
Right.
So I go over there. The first thing I noticed when I opened the door was that there's a new couch, and she's got my couch like pushed up against the, like, getting rid of it.
And you're like, oh no, you didn't, girl.
No, this was actually the couch that you made me sell when we got married.
Oh,
it was, but I bought it from a friend of mine, and it was a down couch. It was filled with it was maybe wasn't fashionable, but it was a great couch. But so I'm like, oh, so you got a new couch? And she was like, yeah. And I said, well, don't get rid of my stuff. If you don't want my stuff, I need to move it. Come get it. And so we sat down on the couch, and I'm thinking everything is beautiful. And she's acting weird, and just the way she's looking at me, and then she's rubbing me on my face and telling me, oh, you look so handsome. And I noticed you grew out a goatee, and I love this and that, and da-da. And so she's like, I have something I need to tell you. And I was like, okay. And I said, you know, I kind of got my feelings hurt with your little testimony time today at church. Like, I feel like everything that we've been through, it would seem like maybe I probably could have heard that before everybody else did. And she was like, yeah, well, that's kind of what we need to talk about. So I'm sitting here in this moment. I'm still thinking that we're talking about.
Right, because she was rubbing your face and telling you were handsome?
Oh, yeah. She was all over me. I mean, all over me. And she said, I need to tell you something. And she said, I've been seeing a guy. And I was like, huh? Like, it didn't register me. She was like, do you remember, I got a promotion she worked at an office supply company. She said, I got a promotion, and part of my promotion is I travel around from business to business. And I was like, yeah. And she said, well, do you remember me bringing one of my clients in for lunch at Kairos? He works for AAA. His name is Brant. And I said, no. I mean, you know me. I'm not going to remember somebody if I don't have a reason to remember, like something to make them remember. And she said, well, I've been seeing him for a couple of months. And I was like, seeing him what? No, it didn't register. It took me a minute. I was like, seeing him what? And she was like, we've been dating.
Oh, gosh.
And I like him, and I'm going to keep dating him. And I was just like, what? Like, I was in shock. Like, I couldn't believe what she was saying to me. And it felt like, I don't know, it was just like your mind, like trying to get your mind around that. Like, I was so confused at the same, and she was still like all over me. Like,
what?
Yeah, it was weird. But it was almost like she took a sword and stuck it through my gut. And I just couldn't, I was in shock. And she was like, and I know, and, but I need to do this. This is what I got to do, and this is what I'm going to do. And then I was like, I couldn't talk. I was just like, I couldn't. And but you know how I am. I'm usually ready to argue. I don't think I've ever been hurt like that. Like, after everything we've been through, and just knowing that she's the one, she's the girl.
Right. Like, in your mind, it was a done deal pretty much.
Yeah.
Y'all just needed to walk it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also there's another part of me, like, I've dated girls and thought I was in love, but I never fully gave my heart to anybody. Mm-hmm. Like, I never 100% opened myself up to another human being until I was in a relationship with her. And I think that's what made it so hard. Mm-hmm. And the only reason I did that, because I thought she was the person that I was going to be with the rest of my life.
Right.
Like, she was my wife. This was all supposed to happen. Like, you have to be 100%. You have to open up, the commitment, everything. I did all the things with her. But then she just took it and threw it aside. And it wasn't even, I have an issue with time. Like, if I spend a lot of time on something, like, I want to see some results.
That's true for you in all categories.
And the hardest thing for me about this little breakup with her was I have been consumed with you for the past 3.5, 4 years.
Right.
To get to this and get nothing. I mean, just get crushed like that. And it was
as she's rubbing your face and telling you that you're handsome.
Yeah, no, she was still kissing on me. No, but I was in shock. I couldn't really, I couldn't process. And I kept trying to talk, and I couldn't get anything to come out. And she was like, okay, let's go to dinner. Let's go to Macaroni Grill.
Oh my gosh.
And so
sorry, I try to control but I feel like I know when girls do this, it's bad form is like the best way. It's bad form.
But I feel like I was in a scene, like watching myself on a security camera, because, okay, I'm going to walk you out and get in the car with you and take you to dinner after you just told me that. But however long it takes you to get from south side of Birmingham to 280, we're going to the Summit to eat at the Italian place there. As we started pulling in, it was like I found myself, and I got angry, and I was like, what is happening? And so I was like, I'm not eating dinner with you. Are you out of your mind? And
this is after you'd already driven.
We went all the way to. No, we've talked about it. Takes me a minute to process.
I was thinking that as you were telling it, like, and I've never heard this story, just for everyone listening, but I do know about you that you are a slow processor.
It takes me a minute to, like. Well, no, I was in shock. I couldn't get my head around it. I couldn't believe it. So then I'm angry.
Starting to set in.
So I'm like, no, I'm taking you home. Like, so I turned around and left. She was like, are you serious? And I was like, hell yeah, I'm serious. What do you think? Like, how do you in your mind think that somehow I'm going to be okay with you dating some other guy? Like, that's what's in your mind?
Did she say that, like, oh, I'm going to date both of you, or I'm just like casually dating everybody?
No, she was going to date him, see how that worked out. And she was having fun with him, and, I don't know. But
okay.
Don't expect for me to think that it's going to be okay.
After you had been doing, what was it called? The
Love Dare.
The Love Dare. I'm sorry. I just know you, and I know that you were probably so committed to that. I
was trying to do what I thought I was supposed to do. So anyways, I get her back home. I drop her off, and she's like, well, I don't want you to be mad. And I was like, are you... Get out of my car. I mean, get out.
Oh.
Anyways, I got back home. I got back to my mom's, and she was so excited. Like, tell me about everything. And usually with my mom, I learned early on, don't tell mama stuff about Shauna, because then mama would be against her. But I couldn't not tell her this, so I just told her. And she was like, she could tell I was crushed, and she was like, well... baby, you need a nerve pill.
What's a nerve pill?
I don't know if this is true of all like country people or rednecks, but on my mom's side of the family, they always had what they call nerve pills.
Yeah.
If you got,
what is that?
I think it's like a Valium or Xanax or something. But even when I was doing drugs and stuff like that, I'm not doing all that.
Well, I have to say, just like thinking from a mom's perspective, all the things about your mom, she's still a mom.
Yeah.
And when you see your kid like crushed or like heartbroken, there is like nothing worse than that. Nothing.
Yeah, but I did take her nerve pill that day. I was like, I need to do something. And I went to sleep and I slept. I think I slept the rest of the afternoon and the night, and then I didn't go to work the next morning. But it was awful. It was hard to process, but
it's like the ultimate heartbreak.
It is. Speaking of mom, she's Norma Jean.
I'm afraid to hear.
She's Norma Jean. Not really her. She didn't do anything crazy, but people thought she was. Yeah. She still went to church at that time with all of us at Grace and Truth, and we had that next Saturday we had a picnic thing that had been predetermined. That had been on the books for like 6 weeks.
And just one big, not so happy family.
Ooh. And it was actually up here in Gardendale at the Southern Pines place. It was a place that I had started doing food for Kairos, where anyways.
Yeah.
But it was the whole church was there, and everybody had signed up to bring some kind of food. And Shauna had signed up to bring chocolate crackle. I don't know if you know, that's where I got the recipe from her.
I actually did not know that.
Yeah, it was some recipe she found in South Carolina or wherever she was. But she had made that, and it was there in a big bowl, but she didn't show up. Like, she couldn't face me after that. And it was tense. Everybody was kind of tense with me, but I was trying to make it where this is hard. This is a hard place to be, because now I go to church where her dad is the pastor and her whole family works for the church.
He's your mentor, and you live with her sister.
Yes, and then but in my business, Steve's my business partner. Sean's mom is my dining room manager, and her brother-in-law was my catering delivery guy. So this was hard to and I knew
navigate.
Like, I'm in pain, I'm hurting. This is not good, but I can't if I lose it on them or something, this could be like a nuclear explosion for everything I'm trying to do right now.
Right.
So I was trying to keep myself in check. I was hurting. It was hard to wake up in the morning. It was just like I was in shock. I couldn't believe it. But that picnic day came, and it was the following Saturday, and Shauna had delivered her chocolate crack there, but she didn't show up. And then everybody else showed up. We were trying to have a good time, and then my mom's car whips in.
Norma Jean's on the scene.
No, but I saw, like, Steve's face fall, like the shock and the look on his face. And they thought she was going to show out, but to her credit, she did not. She didn't even mention it.
Wow.
She was almost kind of like, good riddance.
Right.
I don't know. But then, but what I found out, Jeremy told me the next day at work that him and Tanya had found out the week before. And he said, I wanted to tell you so bad. He said, but I knew it wouldn't sound good coming from me. And Tanya agreed with me. But Tanya found out, and she went to Shauna and told her, you better go tell JJ. You better tell him right now. You better tell him. And so Shauna probably would have kept that a secret a little bit longer.
Tanya kind of forced her hand, I guess, to like make sure, to tell you.
Yeah,
she did.
Tanya was in my corner. Mm-hmm. You know, she was my friend. But, I mean, she loves her sister, too. So it was just like this situation. And it became a situation after that because I was like, I can't live with y'all anymore. Like with Tanya, I can't be around this all the time. I just can't. I can't even be on this side of town. I can't be near her.
Well, I mean, just like you said, a word that I use a lot. I mean, even when you're talking, like everything was so enmeshed. Like every part of your life was overlapping in a major way. And so when something like this happens that you're hurting, you cannot escape. It's like there's no break from it.
Well, the hardest part of that, I think, for me was Steve. Because he was like, well, technically, y'all are on break, so she didn't cheat. And I was like, say that again? And he was like, well, technically, y'all were on break, so she didn't do anything wrong. She's free to do whatever she wants. And I was like, yeah, but you gotta admit, this is not good.
That felt like a smoke screen.
Oh, yeah. It was a protected image.
Right.
The image of the church and all the things. But I still didn't like, I mean, it was not helpful for him to say it like that.
Well, yeah, because you were so hurt.
It was very dismissive. But he did come around. It took him a minute to come around, but he did come around 2 or 3 weeks later, and he wanted to talk because I was avoiding all of them. Like I was at work. I immediately went to stay with my mom. I never went back to Tanya and Jeremy's. Then she ended up getting a 2-bedroom apartment because she had a 1-bedroom. Then she got a 2-bedroom in the same apartment complex, and I just moved in with her. I mean, gosh, talk about having your self-image damaged to be 35 years old, moving in with your mama. I mean,
right.
It was really my only option.
Right.
At that point, I wasn't going. I had to be away from those people. I couldn't.
Because you thought taking the step to move in with Tanya and Jeremy, that was a step in the direction of getting married and then getting y'all's own place.
Yeah.
But really, that was kind of a step away from that.
Yeah.
In reality.
And there's a part of that, too, that makes me wonder, like, when I did that, she didn't really want me to do that. But I felt like it was what I needed to do. If that wasn't some of the stuff that, like, stirred up the stuff with Dave and, her being dissatisfied with me. Because when I lived in my apartment, we could do what we wanted to.
Right.
Like, nobody knew if I spent the night at her house.
Right.
But then after I moved in with Tanya and Jeremy, then it kind of changed that dynamic because they would still tell. I mean, if we were doing something they thought was not right. So
tell. It's like you're in elementary school, like they would tell.
They would. Well, Jeremy would.
Who would they tell?
Steve. So you don't understand. Everything was twisted during that time.
Yeah.
So I ended up.
So was that the end of that, or did it circle back, or what?
Well, I decided to move in with Mom. I didn't like that idea, but I thought I want to be around somebody that loves me. I did. Right. I was hurt, and there was a John Mayer song that I was listening to during that time. He said it was "Dreaming with a Broken Heart." You ever heard that song?
Yeah, I think.
When you're dreaming with a broken heart, waking up is the hardest part. You roll out of bed and then you realize, this happened. But that whole album, it was the Continuum album, the whole album was about heartbreak. And I listened to that on repeat for like 6 months. And it helped me.
Yeah.
I'm in repair. I'm not together, but I'm getting there. I moved in with Mom. Wait, before that happened, about 3 weeks out, after all this was falling apart, I had a lady, Mary, that worked for me. You know Mary.
Yeah.
She worked for me at Kairos. And she said, James, you're so depressed. And she was like my mom's age, so she wasn't like into me like that. But she said, you're so depressed. Why don't me, you, and Brandon go out and have a date night, just a friend's date night, and I'll treat. And I said, I don't know about all that. And Brandon was like, why don't we? You are depressed. We need to do something. You need to do something different. So we went to the melting pot down on 280.
Mm-hmm.
And this was when I was still kind of in my shock part, like trying to figure out, is this really, because I didn't even know who this guy was. I didn't know what he looked like. I didn't know nothing about him.
Right.
All I knew is that Shauna was running off with some other guy.
Right.
And I didn't really want to know. We went to this melting pot place that's like fondue where you dip. I didn't like it. I thought it was, y'all are making me pay you to cook my own food at the table. I mean, but we're at the end of 280. It's past 119. And we come out. We still had fun. It was me, Mary, and Brandon. We were just laughing and cutting up. And it felt good to, like, you know, just not think about all the stuff that was going on. And we were coming down 280, and Brandon wanted a hot chocolate from Starbucks. And there was a Starbucks over, like, in the Greystone area, and I missed the turn. And he was like, James, I wanted a Starbucks. And I said, well, and then Mary was like, I would like a coffee too. So I said, there's 25 Starbucks going down 280. We'll find another one. So we get down 3 or 4 miles, and there's a Starbucks on the left in front of the Fresh Market there, and I think that's the Inverness area. So I pull in, going through the Starbucks. Brandon says, I got to use the bathroom. Will you order me this, and this? Because, you know, Brandon knows what he wants.
Right.
And, you know, he's kind of like Judah. This is what I want. Get it for me. We're going through the drive-thru. Brandon jumps out because he's got to use the bathroom. So he's going to run in, use the bathroom, and then meet me on the other side. So we go through in a good, you know, just in a good place. Get to the window there to pick up our coffees. And as I'm there, paying my money to pick up the coffee, I see Shauna sitting in Starbucks looking all beautiful with her new boyfriend.
Oh my gosh. What are the odds?
Crazy.
Yeah.
But it just like, I was in shock again. And it was like, then she saw me and I saw her. And it was, then Brandon ran out and he was upset. And I don't know.
It was like another punch in the gut.
It was like another sword through me. It was, that was hard. And then just seeing it.
What was her face when she saw you?
Kind of scared, like she thought I was going to do something.
Yeah.
Like, but I ain't, you don't want me, I don't want you.
Like, you're dead to me.
Yeah, but it was very painful. It hurt.
Yeah.
And she actually sent an email the next day and said something to the effect of that we were following her.
Oh my gosh.
Not to me, like to Tanya or to Steve or something. And then that gave me my anger back.
I bet.
Like, if you think I'm following you,
yeah.
Like, I mean, but really, what are the odds that you would run in?
Yeah,
so I could see how she would think that, but there was none of that was happening. Like, I don't want to know. I don't want to know. So she had a lot of my stuff, and when I was moving in with my mom, I made a list of everything that was mine, and Tanya took it over there and said, "This is all JJ stuff. Make sure he gets all his stuff back." So the day that we moved, my mom actually paid for me to have movers to get everything moved back to her house. We just had the 2 men in the truck go to Tanya and Jeremy's house, then stop at Shauna's house a block over, and then go get my stuff out of the storage unit. But when we went in there, that was the first conversation we had after that. And she was trying to give me back. She had like a bag of like jewelry and gifts and stuff that I'd given her, and was like, I guess you want all this. And I was like, no, I don't want all that. I mean, if I gave it to you as a gift, that's one thing. But if it's in your house because I thought we were going to get married and be together, then yeah, I want all. Because she had everything in her house. My dishes, my pots and pans, silverware.
Oh, yeah.
Steak knives, everything.
Yeah.
So I got to get all that back.
So you got it back.
Phone too.
Yeah.
Everything. So it was tough. But
that is tough.
And I would love to say that it was over after that. But we would end up trying to get back together a dozen times after that.
Oh my gosh, are you serious?
Yeah, it was bad. And then then it turned into a thing between me and him. And I was like, ain't gonna be no me and him because I ain't.
Wait, like him versus you?
Yeah, but it was more from his perspective, not from my perspective. Like, I don't compete. Like, there's no competition. Either you're with me or not. Like, I got to a place where I thought maybe I could forgive her. Like, it was because she would start texting me in the middle of the night, sending off these flurries of texts. I'm so sorry. I don't know why I do these things. I think I'm damaged and Dave hurt me and I need more healing and I need more of this. And could you forgive me and we could try again? And, I did that. I think the first time I did that was around Christmas of 2008. It lasted 3 days. Like, I just couldn't. I was like, no, I can't forget.
It's like if we had been friends at the time, which we didn't even know each other at the time. I didn't even live in the country at the time, actually. Mm-hmm. But I can imagine, because I've, had friends that you just want to be like, shake them and be like, oh my gosh, stop.
Yeah, it was like that, and it was hard. But it never lasted more than a week when we would try to get back together. And it went on like that till like 2010 before I finally got to the end, like the very end. No, but we still would fight and do all that stuff. Or, she would show up over at my mom. I remember one night she showed up at my mom's house when I was living there and was like wanting to carry on and holler. And it's because of something I said. Like, I think I sent her an email. She sent me an email saying something. And I said, when I first met you, I thought you were like an angel sent from Jesus to make my life better. But now on the other side, now that I know you for who you are, you were like Delilah that took Samson down. Like, you were from the devil. You're evil.
James, you can be very harsh with your words.
I remember that night when I sent that email, she came and knocked on the door, and I opened the door, and she slapped me in the face. And I was like, that didn't even hurt. Like, what do you got? That did not faze me.
I can say thank God that y'all didn't get married, because imagine, like, if this was happening when you, like, aren't together, like, these kind of drama scenes, like, imagine if you got married. Oh, that would be, like, 10 times that, probably.
I would be Jesus knows what I need. But to sum this up, during that season, I have a quote that I think I got off a church sign, but it always stuck with me. And it was when I first got out of prison. And it was, it said that a smart man learns from his own mistakes. A wise man learns from others' mistakes, but a fool learns from no one. And so I'd always prided myself on being, I can take something out, I can learn, and I just remember getting down on my knees because I was in emotional pain. And it took me a year and a half.
Is this in 2010 when you were
No,
on
this
your
was
knees?
in 2008 when I first started.
Okay.
It was like, I don't want to be smart anymore, Jesus. I need wisdom. I need help. I'm done. Being smart hurts. I mean, it might sound good, but smart hurts. I don't want to be smart anymore. We're getting to the end, so we probably want to close this up. But I had a meeting with Steve about a month in, because he knew I didn't want to talk to him about this.
When you say a month in, a month after she told you she was seeing somebody else.
Yeah.
Okay.
He knew that it would be hard for him to help me and that I didn't really want to hear anything he had to say.
Right.
Because especially initially, I felt like he was trying to cover it up.
Right.
Like, whatever, deal with it, but keep your mouth shut and don't embarrass me or the church kind of deal. Was that he came and he said, I had a dream about you last night and I think it was real and I need to tell you what the dream was. And so I said, okay. He said, in a dream, you shut down Kairos, you left Grace and Truth, went to another church, and you went back to Tony's and started working at Leonardo's. And I said, well, I'm not too big on going back, but that's not too far-fetched. And he said, I just want to encourage you, don't do that. Don't leave. Deal with what you need to deal with. And I know you're hurting, and I'll be here. There are other men here that can help you, and we can get through this, but don't run. Because if you run, you're not only not going to get better, it's going to get worse. So it was kind of like an encouragement to push through.
Right. I mean, it sounds like sound advice to me.
It was, but it was so hard.
Yeah.
It was so hard because this is what would happen on Sundays when we went to church. I'd have to go in church and sit down and do church, and she's up there playing the piano and carrying on and raising her hands and love you, Jesus. And I was like,
you couldn't really separate yourself.
No, I'm like, I want to set this place on fire. Like, this is bad. But in the end, it was true. I got over it faster. And I think it didn't do the kind of damage to me that it could have. So, we've got friends that are walking through hard stuff right now. And, my advice to people when they're going through something like this is stick it out. Don't run from it. Look at it. Process it. Go through the 5 stages of grief till you get to acceptance.
Yeah.
And I guess that's where.
I guess in lieu of all that, you said the last breakup or that went on until 2010.
Yeah.
Well, I just got one thing to say to you.
What?
2012 is coming, baby.
Actually, I was just thinking.
That's when we met.
I can go back. I have emails. I can go back and get a date on this.
Yeah.
When I finally told her, we're done. And I told her that I would pray for her, that God would bring somebody into her life. And he did. And she's happily married now. She's got 2 kids, doing good. That was in 2010. It'd be interesting to see what the date is, because your plane landed on my birthday in 2010 at the Birmingham International Airport. Is it International Airport?
Yeah, I don't know.
Anyways.
The Birmingham Airport, yeah.
Your plane landed from Sweden in July of 2010 on my birthday.
Yeah.
So you were my birthday present, and I didn't even get to open you until 2012.
You get to open me till
2013. Not that kind of open.
Oh, yeah, that is really neat, actually. I moved to Alabama from Sweden and got here on your birthday of that year.
Yep.
That's neat.
You went with your dad to Bonefish Grill, and you looked around, and you said, I just don't see any man in Alabama that I could ever be interested in marrying.
And that's true. I did say that, and I did think that.
And then you married the epitome of Alabama. Roll Tide, Phoenix City, all the good stuff. All right, guys. Well, we're excited about this season.
It's getting better, people.
Oh, yeah. This was just... You have to start with this because it's the truth. It's what happened.
Yes.
So... Here we go. As
always, thank you guys for listening. Thanks for being a part of our story, and we will see you next time.
See you soon.
Bye.
Bye. Hey, guys, we hope you enjoyed the podcast.
Written and produced by the Team Jones Company.
Yours truly, James and Haley Jones.
If you like what you've heard, you can subscribe to all of our podcasts.
Download the Patreon app. You can get all of our content early and ad-free. Straight Out of Prison, The For Real, and Narrowing the Gap. There's a specialized feed there for all subscribers. You'll get downloads, updates, exclusive contents, live Q&As, and more.
Or head over to teamjones.co/podcast and click on the Become a Patron button.
And I'll also put that in the show notes.
Other ways you can support us is to like and share, leave a rating and review, and support our sponsors. They help us provide this platform for free.
Listen on Apple, Google, Amazon Music, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and more.
And thank you again for being a part of our story.
Out of these videos, please hit the like button to subscribe. If you never want to miss a recipe or anything I do, hit the little bell and you'll get notifications.
Is that like your specialty? THEY apostrophe LL. Holy cow.
Why say holy cow?
That is a lot of food boats. What are you making, buddy?
I'm making a caterpillar.
A caterpillar? That's awesome.
And I'm going to make it a tail.
Oh, awesome.
How about tail has a caterpillar?
Good job. It's time for a shower, okay?
Okay. Hey.
Don't step on them, okay? Yes. Okay, you got to pick them all up. You know that, right?